Alright, it's Tuesday, October 5th. I'm in this symbology at the moment. I'm going through, I own a Copenhagen Scandinavian genetic copying machine factory, and I produced these 4 pieces of moving artwork with my own body. My belly grew. I was there as I painfully pushed them into this world. These are mine, and I do not share them with anybody. That's it. One of my 4 goes to a New York City school. The teacher last year was kind enough, and under instruction, I'm sure, to put together an art bag, a culmination of the year's whatever, in however stuff gets done. So I have a value list of the words and scale of words that the local New York City criminal enterprise is working off of. They call it their employer. I call it, right? Yeah, got it. I have to protect you and my own kids from your employer. Alright, so now, there's something I call finger painting in the world. It's when you get some kind of like gooey substance on your fingers, whether it's like icing when you're making a cake and it gets all over the kid's hands, or if it's actually finger paint, and then they move the paint, and when they move the paint, it moves in a manner that is it makes a fingerprint, but not on your finger, on a outside, I call it tertiary, but again, I don't want to get, like, I'm not versed in, like, high university, so I'm trying to keep it to easy to understand for the moment. So, theoretically, if this was like a finger paint motion, if I had finger paint on my hand and I made that kind of, it's the same. If you're going to tile a floor with a marble tile, a porcelain tile, a mosaic tile, some teachers and professors and some areas of professional teaching institutions will instruct the paste, P-A-S-T-E, or the mortar, M-O-R-T-A-R. Sometimes they call it buttering. The action is buttering the floor, B-U-T-T-E-R-I-N-G. So what you'll do is you'll take a trowel, T-R-O-W-E-L, and this paste of some sort, of some substance, depending on what you're doing, and they'll instruct you to butter the floor with this motion that looks like finger painting, but you don't want to get it all over your fingers because sometimes it has a lye content in it, and lye is a chemical that at times can burn through your skin. So you use a trowel, a utility of a trowel instead. And it has claws, C-L-A-W-S, or teeth, T-E-E-T-H in it. And you make this score, S-C-O-R-E, when you're buttering the floor. Now, some will tell you to butter the tile and score the tile. Some teachers will tell you just score the floor only and then place the tile on it. And the adhesive action will create a suction, an aeration and suction, and a way for the tile to level itself out, but also cause a physical change and chemical change that holds and adheres the top portion with the bottom layer. Well, for not getting too technical. That's important. There's a saying in the English language, what are you trying to butter me up? That's interesting. I've never actually had anybody say it to my face in this day label. I just know it exists. And when I go back to buttering a tile and buttering a floor for some adhesive, it's an interesting concept you humans came up with, I suppose, in catchphrases. So that happened. But I don't have anybody to accredit that to, so I'll accredit it to myself for my children's benefit. Alright, so so here's the linguistical prowess New York City, in their criminal enterprise, agreed on to teach my son without my permission and without my knowledge. But I'm going to use it as a value. Thanks. So they have a part to play in this. So it says value is the range from dark, they put dark first, to light. Then value scale shows the change of a color from light to dark. So we can distinguish value from value scale, because there's a big difference when there's other values added to certain linguistical equations and some quark and some quantum mirrors in physics. All right, so now we have a general understanding of that. There's this illusional effect. There's shapes hidden inside of this. My son made this. Do you see how optical illusion is? Some pop out, but some are behind. All right. It almost gives the appearance of being two-dimensional on a one-dimensional scale. Ooh. Right, yeah. These are some of the jerks that work in courtrooms. They give me a real fucking problem with focus groups and whatever. Some of you are like so ridiculously smart, Alec, that you become haphazardly dangerous for the rest of us. All right. My son also created this, which is a geometric pattern. Color scales are different on the different legends. And it has geospatial prowess built in at crop circles, CROPCIRCLE, which gets run through a different forensics machine when I get to wherever time and space pops and mom's back to like magical workshop of people that are actually useful in the world. Unlike my day-to-day operation of like being tortured and maimed. Alright, and then he's got this one in swirls and in a highway with 3 trees. And then something's going on over here. That broke. This is during the broken machine, might I add. This particular unit. Let's see. This unit arrived in Century 19, Decade 9 plus 9 years. He's Century 19 as like I am. I'm Century 19, Decade 7 plus 8 years. This unit arrived in, he's the first unit to arrive in 20th century. He's year 3. He's Decade 0, year 3. This particular unit is Century 20, Century 20, Decade 0, year 5. And then this one's the Mayan calendar. So these are considered Gregorian calendar, along with myself. And then he is considered Mayan calendar, with a mix into Gregorian. But he's the beginning and end of something called a Mayan calendar on a long and short count civilization that was configured in order to protect me and the others, but thus far has not worked out as well as I had hoped. He is a Century 20 born identity with a decade 1 plus 2 years. So he's 2012. So that's the 505 IET, and I can see my own reflection right here as the mother. So we'll talk about quantum mirrors. There's me speaking on what I brought into and what I value added to this quantum spectrum in global expansion time frame, where I'm having a biological terrorist attack at the moment. My biological epidermis is swelling with no real reason. I'm Nicole Cattaruzza. It's star 1978, star 8378. I'm Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxies broken. That's my space address for Deep Space Nine. And the reason why I mentioned buttering the tile is that the esoteric and the extrinsic has its own buttered pattern of almost fingerprints, and then my optical illusion has its own signature, and it adheres into a dimensional quantum realm of polymathematics and polyscience as a machine and a machine piece. And the read between the current finger-painted fingerprint of the dimension for which I enter and then simultaneously interact with has settings that are currently off, which is causing my genome and my biodome being the outside, and my genome being the afflicted on the inside for this one per se. Sometimes the language changes or has to articulate differently based on the scenario that I'm thrown into or at. But at the moment, my intellectual property is under attack and under fire as well, by making me pronounce it this way on such a public format. Even though I'm in private house, I have to document it somehow because I need it fixed. I also apparently have to prove who I am. I don't know to whom. But in this New York City, I'm being harmed by radio waves and by photons. The light that comes in through that window, you can even see right now, through the camera lens. It is at such a high radio microwave photon, we count it in a gamma field of a micron, but it is turned up so high, it almost whitewashes. It looks like after a nuclear bomb goes off on a movie screen, you can see some shadow silhouettes of the pictures in the back after the bomb goes off. Well, look, depending on how I reflect the refracted light, look at how high up it goes in a value scale just by me turning the camera ever so slightly. That is nuclear radiation. I am stuck in a field of nuclear radiation. That is what's behind the visual dexterity that I am used to picking up in my eyesight. There's contrast right now in the visual spectrum. I can see there's some form of something outside the window. I cannot decipher from sitting right here what is outside, My intellect knows it's trees, it's leaves, it's that kind of thing. But if I had to use my visual cortex only, I have no idea what that is. It looks like some kind of specks. But it is frightening that when I refract the light and move the camera ever so slightly, all of a sudden, all of the visual world that I'm used to in physicality is washed over by such high levels of radiation that I can no longer distinguish where the tree is or where the world, the world outside my door begins and ends. It's a really scary time right now because nobody else seems to know that the sun is turned up so painfully high, and the background, I feel like I'm in an MRI machine. That's the only way. It hums like an MRI, and its visual spectrum is so high. That's why I wear sunglasses 3/4 of the time. These days, 99% of the time. Last few days, I switched out to regular lens, but for the most part, because it is so painful, and it's damaging to your eyes. Well, to my eyes, anyway. And so now, and then it starts to burn the back of the retina. So the movie, like the rods and the cones aren't even, they're like desensitized. So then it becomes even more of a problem. But this, again, goes into the extrinsic, that's my intrinsic problem with what I'm picking up with a buttered tile or an adhesive situation of the physics around me and my personal body machina and the physique and the way that it's currently operating. I have others in the field. They're just not as astute or as awake, I suppose, looking for words to explain something that really nobody ever has to explain. So there was no fingerprint, there was no finger painting done last year during the school year. I can't remember the teachers' names, and I apologize. I'm just not that kind of mom. But it was last year. It was class 3-304 for CATSCRATCH. And this was the art without my interference, without the class's interference. This was his creation. They may have guided him with this 321, but it says his name is Anthony, Project Unit. I can make out the word Verd. But again, this is his special script. So it looks Verd, and it's Vincing, which reminds me of Venice, like come here. I learned here it looks like lins, which he probably means lines, but he spelled it Lins. I swear to God, it looks like he's speaking German. Vincent van Gogh. I mean, like, the kid's not supposed to be speaking English. But, whatever. On other things that I pick up in paleontology. Alright, and anthology. Alright, so now, this is the other one. Again, this is his guidance, internal guidance system. This is how he was wired. Hardwired, and you have software. This is software. And you've got hardware. The hardware at the moment is what I call the environment, the acclimate, the buttered tile on the outside. The buttered tile on the outside that I'm adhered into has a hardwire, and I'm the soft wire that interacts. At the moment, the environment, some of the settings on the acclimate and climate are in a harmful way. And my interaction with them is I'm just being punished by the settings that nobody seems to be picking up on or changing. So this way, all of a sudden, the environment in New York City or Bayside Station becomes a healthy one where my body can intrinsically heal itself. The settings are just off internally and externally. So this is what his soft wire picked up on based on hard wire butter tile he was able to read through infrared. They call it subliminal. Then you've got sublingual when they speak it. And then he's got, you know, tuning that he picks up coptically. And then this one, I think, probably had a little bit more instruction on it, but he did an amazing job. This is where I'm broken. I am so bad at recreating this type of art. Whatever this is called, I have no idea, because I never got to study art, not even at this level. I never got to study it or create it. It was kind of taken out of my school, and then by the time I got it, I absolutely hated it, but I didn't know why I hated it. I just kept saying I hated it. But I had a fabulous art teacher at once who actually helped me with my OT skills. That was in junior high, in Cold Spring Harbor, and I don't remember her name, so I apologize. Alright, so it's October 5th, 2021. I'm still in Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, and it's still an unhealthy system. Not that I've had any luck whatsoever getting to speak to anybody that knows how it needs to be fixed or why. So, here I am.